one of the values of the psychedelic experience is that it reveals to us the arbitrariness of so much of what we take to be the nature of our own consciousness. So much of what we take to be a given about it is very arbitrary in terms of our senses, how we perceive things, even conceptually how we conceive of things. I think when you're tripping, sometimes you have this awareness of these limitations on our thought that you can't otherwise become aware of.
Melts away and there's another reality.
Yeah, and so in trying to contemplate what another consciousness evolving on another planet might be like and how they might be similar or different from us, I think the psychedelic experience is very valuable in sort of revealing some of the arbitrary parts of our, the doors of perception, like Aldous Huxley spoke of it. You know, I think that being shown the doors of perception, at least a hint of them, which is probably all we ever get, helps us to realize that consciousness evolving on other worlds is going to also have to have doors. Consciousness, I think, needs doors because otherwise perception, reality is just overwhelming and we can't, we'd never make sense of anything. So we need filters and doors. And the aliens are going to have different ones. And part of what might make it so hard for us to communicate with them or understand or, have any hope of connecting with them might come down to just a real difference in sort of state of consciousness. So experience with states of consciousness, I think, might actually come in handy when we get to meet them.
And part of your own take on the whole situation is that your feeling is that they're out there, but we're basically so immature that we just aren't at the point yet where we're able to, or where they want to talk to us.
Yeah, well, I think
we're not worthy yet intellectually.
I think that's a reasonable explanation for the reason why we haven't heard from them. There are other reasonable explanations, and we have to live with some uncertainty on this until we find out either, or they find us, or they tell us the answer. But it seems to me, reasonable scenario is that there is lots of conscious life in the universe. There are many planets with advanced technology that have been around for millions of years, longer than we have, that perhaps they all know each other and there may even be a galactic civilization. We can't rule that out, and there's a certain logic to it. And it may well be that they just don't see us as interesting enough or promising enough to bother with. In Lonely Planets, I talk about the Seedling Hypothesis, which is...
That's what, the meteor, like taking the life from planet to planet.
Yeah, well, no, the Seedling Hypothesis is more just our role in the universe may be so insignificant that we're not that interesting. Like, if the galaxy's a forest, and there's maybe, you think of a forest with giant redwoods, and that's what you notice, and you don't necessarily see the little seedlings on the floor, because maybe someday they'll be interesting enough to notice, but that may be where we are in the galaxy. We're such babies. So one idea is that they're just not talking to us and not dealing with us because we're young and not that interesting, and maybe the kind of thing they've seen before and they know isn't going to last very long.
What's your take on Paul Allen's latest success, if you will?
Well, I think it's cool.
And this new prize, what is it, 50 million?
The X Prize.
Orbit twice?
Yeah,
maybe you could tell people what that is.
I'm skeptical in some ways of capitalism and big capitalism in particular. And the X Prize is basically motivated to try to get more private enterprise happening in space, to take the space program away from the government, or make it something that is not just government run, but in fact get companies that are doing business.
Kind of like the post office and UPS and FedEx.
Yeah. And there are definitely some positive arguments to be made for that. I think just having more people trying it in different ways, and will spur innovation. And I do believe that humans going into space is fundamentally a good thing. I think it's good for us as a species. I think
Wasn't
perspective from outer space can help us.
Those
evolve.
first pictures of the whole Earth, remember the whole Earth catalog?
Oh yeah.
I mean, for people to see it as one, I mean, without the boundaries of the...
I think it was Fred Hoyle, who was a brilliant, eccentric, obstinate, often wrong, but absolutely brilliant British cosmologist, said back in the 40s that once a picture of the Earth from space is made available to everyone, that will change the nature of of humanity and the way we think, and that it will help save us. And I think actually he's right about that, and that it is helping that consciousness related to seeing the whole Earth.
And what's this Gaia you were talking about in Lonely Planets? What can you tell people what Gaia? That.
Oh, Gaia.
Pardon. Close. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's gay. The Earth is gay. It's natural. It's trying to mate with Mars, and they're spreading rocks back and forth. And they're brothers. No. Oh no. Yeah. No. The Gaia hypothesis is an idea about the relationship between Earth and life, really, and the new way of looking at life on a planet. And it was originally devised by two people, Jim Lovelock, who's an eccentric British atmospheric scientist, and Lynn Margulis, who's an eccentric American microbiologist. They're both absolutely brilliant. And Lynn Margulis is the mother of my buddy Dorian Sagan, who's one of my best friends, who's Carl Sagan's oldest son. Mm-hmm. There's some funny intertwining family history there too. But
Gaia, what is it?
Yeah, sorry.
It's kind of like the Earth is a one cell, or the Earth.
It's looking at all the life on Earth as a superorganism, basically. Right. In a certain sense, all life on Earth is one creature, and that is Gaia. And scientists have criticized it as saying, well, it's imprecise, it's flaky, it can't be tested, it's not really a scientific theory. But there's more to it than that. There's some actually very subtle and sophisticated ideas, because it's also an idea about evolution, the co-evolution of Earth. And
the co-evolution.
And the way that life has adapted to its environment in a Darwinian sense, that like if it's more fit, it's going to survive better, and sort of the changes in the physical environment will change life because of that. But you add the component that Earth has adapted to the life, and that life has changed Earth in major ways, changed the atmosphere, all the oxygen from green plants, and changed the composition of the ocean, changed the nature of the soil, the balance of radiation coming into the Earth from the sun, going back out, is completely changed by all the vegetation on the Earth. So in all these ways, including the chemistry, probably even deep within the Earth, because you've got carbonates being made by shells decomposing, and then those get subducted by plate tectonics deep into the Earth. So deep into the Earth, you've got chemistry that's different than it would be even in the inside of the planet if life wasn't here on the surface. So life is really bound up in the long-term physical evolution of the planet. And I think that's the real insight of the Gaia hypothesis that is important in the way we think about life. And I think that can illuminate the question of life on other planets in a way that hasn't always been incorporated enough into the way that astrobiologists think about life on other planets.
And one thing I want to say to everyone is that I'm sure you're going to want to learn more about David and visit funkyscience.net. But in the meantime, pick up a copy there, and you'll find yourself feeling very happy and delighted.
And watch out for meteorites, because these things can really hurt.
David, thank you.
Thanks a lot.